All right. So if you're joining us and just joined us, thanks for hanging out with us. This is the live broadcast of the Church Safety Guys. And Mike, welcome.
What's up, fellas?
You made
it connected.
I did. 300 miles later and halfway across Texas, and my car is still somewhere I've never been. So.
Wow.
There's a backstory.
Yeah. So we'll see.
That's frustrating.
It is frustrating, but honestly, I think the interesting thing is, I got guests. The interesting thing is how God worked through that, and I think it's the quick component is that God really kind of showed in all of the chaos, in all of the crisis, in all of everything that's going on right now, how that there's still good Samaritans, there's still friendly people that are out there. Amen. And a sheriff's office deputy off duty called it in, realized that all of their deputies were deployed and taking care of other things, came out on her own time, brought snacks, brought me to McDonald's with my daughter. And wow. You know what? There's just good in the world. So I'm blessed.
Amen.
That's good stuff. How's your weekend been going, Paul?
It's been interesting. If you guys think of this, let's pray. And I'm glad what an amazing segue you just gave us, Mike, into that, because I spent an hour talking to a police officer today with about 22 years of experience who's thinking about hanging it up because of what's going on right now. Everything is just hitting him so hard. And I said, if you've got to get out and you're burned out, I get it. But if you would please hold the line, in 6 months and a year, we need you. That next crop of cops coming up, they need you to train them. And he's a good cop. And I was in tears talking to him about it. And it's heavy on my heart because this is not something that's happening to one police officer. We have a small group of people are trying to demonize every cop. And we know that a bad thing happened and it's not all cops. But there's a group of people that are trying to demonize people that are there to protect us, and it breaks my heart.
I went. You guys know the backside of the story because I was kind of telling you. But Friday, my church was involved with several other churches in going to the Capitol and just trying to minister to some of the protest groups in a safe way. And it wasn't we agree with necessarily with what you're doing, but we agree with the right and the ability to protest civilly and non-violently. Amen. And I went looking really more at it from a executive protection standpoint, that I didn't feel that my pastor and some of the other folks should be there without someone from the safety team and specifically just kind of monitoring and watching, what was going on. But what kind of hit me is my senior pastor and I went, we were at the Capitol building. We kind of walked around and there's state troopers there. There's all sorts of police there and people protesting peacefully. And we went up to each group of state troopers and offered them, we had some water and snacks and stuff like that. And of course, I mean, if I was in that position, I would be hesitant to take stuff from me because you don't know me and you don't know what's going on. And so some of the officers, it was interesting because some of the officers were very rude and curt and very much like, get away from me. And it was 4 feet away. Nobody was wearing masks or anything like that. So it wasn't a social distancing thing. It was an attitude thing. And then as we were leaving, we had one officer come up to us and was just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you guys are here just doing this. Thank you so much." And it was like, that's a night and day difference. And I think, honestly, it was a great opportunity. I think that for our church, I think we needed it. And I think it was a smart thing to bring us closer together, to work with each other, to say, I may not 100% agree with you on politics, but I can appreciate the fact that you are concerned about this situation. And if it generates, again, if it generates some concern on a topic that needs to be addressed, then I think that's good. But that also being said, there's a lot of hurt in this country right now, and there's a lot of cleanup and a lot of stuff that just needs to be done now, because much of this has gotten out of hand.
Two things: morals and empathy. If everybody, stepped up their morals game and cared just a little bit, even a little bit more incrementally across the board, would raise the tide of empathy across this nation to a level that we've never seen. That's our problem. We have a heart problem.
Yeah.
Well, what does Scripture say? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I had commented on a post online that was a Christian post, and somebody came in being hateful and saying bad things about Christians. And I said, we just need to do what the Bible says. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And others is anybody of any race, creed, religion, or orientation. It's everybody. And I wanted to, before you go real quick, I wanted to comment, James.
Yeah.
I was at a flood in my small town, and we had officers that had been up for 48 hours on their feet. And some of them were on their third 12-hour shift. And I had a couple of officers that got really surly, and we just kind of pulled them back from people, and I ran interference. And I'm too dumb to know when I'm tired, I guess. And I just kept going and talking to people. And I had a lady come up to me, and we had a set of railroad tracks that this one officer was at, and he was turning people back. And he was so tired of people going, "Can you please let me through?" that he would just go. And this lady comes up to me, and she goes, "That officer over there was rude to me." And I said, "Well, I apologize." I said, "He's normally a pretty nice guy." She's like, "Well, somebody needs to go talk to him." And I said, "Well, I apologize." I said, "He's on his third shift." And she goes, and I said, "Well, they're 12-hour shifts." And she goes, "Oh, do you guys need anything? Can I get you coffee or like soda?" And I said, "Well, I tell you what, most police officers will not take something from you that they don't know it is still sealed." And I said, "So no open containers of any kind, coffee or anything." And I said, "But a sealed coffee, a sealed soda, some water, things like that, prepackaged foods." I said, and if he doesn't want it, bring it here and we'll eat some of it. And then when we don't die, he can come get it later." But it was one of those things that he was a normally pretty nice guy. He was somewhere he didn't want to be. His feet hurt. He was tired. And he had talked to 3 too many stupid people in one day. And that's probably not very nice of me to say. But when there's 5 foot of water roaring across the top of a road, somebody goes, "Is it okay if I drive through there?" No, you will die.
Turn around, don't drown.
I thought it was funny because I was talking, there was one of the other churches that had been there before we got started had a couple folks representing it, and it was a smaller Baptist church. And so I was talking to the guy. I'd never met him before. And so he commented, he's like, "Oh, are you one of the pastors here?" And I said, "No, I'm the safety director of the church, and I'm going." Right. And he stopped and he's like, "Oh, wow." He's like, "So you talk to churches about safety teams and setting up safety teams?" He's like, "We don't have a safety team." And he's like, can you come to our church and can you talk to us about how to set up a safety team?" So it was pretty funny. But when we were talking, when we were done, my senior pastor and I were driving the van, and we were talking back and forth, and we're talking about social media. And he said, the problem with social media today. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "The Christians are the problem. Christians are the problem with social media today." And I was like, I wanted to cheer. At the same time, I was like, that was, I guess, well said. And then he continued and he said, we just don't, we want our soapbox, or I don't even know if I can eloquently say how he said it, but you know, the reality is you see so many times, and I've pulled back away from Facebook a little bit because it just gets frustrating, you know, to see the situation where people get frustrated, and that's your outlet and you have the right to post. I'm not bagging on that. It's just sometimes to me it just wears on me after a bit seeing, you know, I have this set of friends over here that post all this stuff, and then I have this set of friends over here that post all this stuff, and then somewhere in the middle of that is the two of you. So I don't know, but hey, we've got a lot going on tonight. We're going to talk about churches reopening, and we've got some fun stuff lined up. But for starters, we actually have Jim Howard from Trinity Security Allies with us. What are you doing?
I was cheering. That was me cheering.
Oh, you're cheering. Okay. Hey, Jim.
Applause,
how's it going?
applause.
Hey, I knew what Paul was doing. I
Thank
appreciated it.
Hey,
The
Jim.
crowd goes
couldn't
wild. Yeah.
I couldn't tell if he was like cheering or booing or my mic at that point.
You were talking about me earlier when I couldn't hear. So, I mean,
Right. Oh, that was fun. For those of you who are at home, we were trying to get all of our mics and everything synced up and ready to go. And me being the very serious, never joking guy that I am, I turned to James and I said, well, this would be probably a good time for us to say mean things about him. And of course, I knew Murphy's Law, that's when he would pick up and his speakers would start working to be able to hear us. He's like, well, I can hear you now.
Oh, my goodness. Fun
We should
stuff.
sell tickets to our backstage stuff.
yeah, those bloopers, you know, that's what they call them.
Yeah.
Blooper lines. Yeah. Stuff you cut out.
I think we probably could. So we opened today, and it was the first Sunday we had back in person, and we had two services, one at 9:30, and the 9:30 service was set up for 55 and above, and those that considered them at risk individuals. And then we had another service at I think it was at 11, and that was basically for families and other folks. And right now we don't have any children's ministry services or anything, nursery or anything like that open. It's very much just you know, everyone meets in the sanctuary. They have the sanctuary sectioned off. You know, different services get a different color, and then that way we're rotating people. We're not having them all sit in the same seats. There's space, people can sit. And you know what was interesting is we're not requiring folks to wear masks. There was a few of us that were wearing masks. When people came in, we'd offer them hand sanitizer to clean their hands real quick, but we kind of limited the opportunity for them to touch stuff. You know, we held the door open for people and that sort of thing. But what, you know, as far as planning goes, what I thought was interesting, and I'll turn it over to Mike, because I know he had some stuff he wanted to share about what they're doing, because they have multi campuses or several campuses. But what I thought was interesting was just watching the people and the reaction of people coming back in was just amazing to me, because both ages, you could tell just their spirit. And, you know, we met them at the door and we were like cheering them, you know, kind of saying, hey, welcome back, you know, trying to make it a little bit fun. And at the same time, everyone's spirit, you could tell as soon as they walked in, they were like, they were boosted. It was like, I'm here now. This is, you know, my life is somewhat going back to the normal thing. Amen. And it was really encouraging. It was nice. I mean, there was people I hadn't seen for months that, you know, I was able to go back to joke with and just have that fellowship. And I think for me, it just reminded me, and everything went fine. You know, very few people actually wore masks, which is fine. We said, if you want to, that's up to you. We're not going to tell you not to. It's based on your comfort level. And, you know, I mean, I don't think it could have gone better for having two different services and that sort of thing. So it was real positive, but I was very much encouraged by how it was responded. People were eager to do the standards we had set in place and the plans, and people were just excited to be there. And it's like, I haven't seen that in a very long, well, 3-4 months worth of time. So it's good stuff.
Interesting. That's great. You're able to
What'd you
open,
know?
James. Well, a couple of things. I think if I looked at one word throughout the planning process through this and speaking to the lead pastors, and I'm going to speak for our campus, not the multi, is really from a perspective of balance is the word that I think we're looking at. And that balance is that we're trying to work with numerous people on all sorts of the spectrum that are trying to understand what is right for me, what is right for my family, when can I possibly come back. And so we started by opening up our phase one, which is really just a service recording. So we're recording our Sunday service on a Saturday by inviting volunteers in. And we chose to use that as kind of a beta to work with our volunteer team to test a process of social distancing, of bringing people in. What does that look like? What are people concerned with? And really try to hone in on the language we would utilize for expanding to the full capacity. Now, we've set a date for June 28th, and we now feel that we've gone through 3 of these now, and we'll have 2 more. But June 28th is we're gonna open back up. We're gonna allow kids to come into the sanctuary and sit with their families. We won't have kids church separately because we have not yet mastered that plan on how to perfect it, if you will. But we don't want to keep families away. I mean, the families and the children are the future of our church. And yes, we're not ready for that plan, but we don't want to keep them away. So I think I would echo your sentiment of the eagerness of some, but I also would say is that there are some still that are paralyzed in fear. And right or wrong, that's how they feel. And so we've done surveys and we've looked at trying to understand where is the sentiment across the board. And it ranges the gamut. This is not just one demographic or another. What's shocking is actually the younger demographic, the millennials and younger, are the crowd that seems to be the most content with watching online only. Now, that can be a technology thing, or it could be, are we putting perhaps too many obstacles in the path to bringing back church in certain areas? Now, here in Texas, we're mostly wide open, 75% for a lot of restaurants, things like that. It's a lot different than places north of here. But I think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm happy to be back in our building and serving.
One thing you just touched on that I wanted to come back to real quick, and then I'll throw it over to Jim, and you can chat and see what Florida's going through down there. But one thing you mentioned was the communication and putting the plan together, and I did a quick video not too long ago about the communication piece, and it seemed like a lot of individuals reached out to me after I did it and thanked me for talking about communication from the standpoint of putting the time into plan, because if you don't put the time into plan and think through all aspects of that ministry and communicate it clearly using the same terms throughout the whole process, what you end up with is people that are even more confused and more put in a state because they're going back to the church. They're looking at, okay, I'm coming back to the church as this is putting normal, a consistent thing in my life again. And, and now I've got to sacrifice that because the one thing that I thought I could count on, and isn't it true? The church isn't Christ. The church isn't, it's not the Bible. But the reality is we associate that so much that I think often when that communication piece isn't there, it's the perception of really kind of saying, you know what, guess what? The Bible's not consistent. Christ isn't consistent because we're not consistent to bring these truths to you. So I think it can have an interesting impact, but let me turn it to actually, Jim, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what are you seeing with all of this?
Well, I've been talking to churches from Southern Florida to Ohio, Illinois, Iowa, and a lot of them have started in phases like you're talking about. But the ones down here that have started in phases that don't allow the children's ministry, which is kind of one of these things that we're really big in. That's a big part of our church. So we've decided that we're not going to go re-enter the church until July the 5th. And when we come back, we're coming back. I mean, it's it's
Sure.
children's ministry. It's now. Will we have social distancing? Well, it changes every week. I mean, if we kind of looked around, social distance, there for the longest time, people were being arrested for not socially distancing, but that doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. Nobody's worried about that anymore. But they do have their mask on. I will say that for them. But it's one of these things that our church has. I mean, I've got this great pastor. I just have to say it, Johnny Scott. If you happen to be out here, I'm talking about you. But he has. I mean, fought over this. I mean, we wanted to come back. We wanted to come back. We wanted to come back. We talked about doing kind of the same thing that Mike was talking about, having the kids with the family. We were going to hand them coloring books. So, as they walked in, maybe only have 2 songs instead of 3 songs, or 2 short songs instead of 3 long songs. Have the sermon for 30 minutes or less, so that we could get in and get out. And then, have it roped off one way, and it just was like, nah. We're doing really well on our social media. We're doing unbelievable. I mean, we have more people now on our social media. And
Absolutely.
so we've done really well. So we're just going to continue this until we can just come right in as a family.
Amen.
I'll say another thing about what Mike just said there too. We will still continue to offer the social media. My mother-in-law lives in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and she watches all the services. I mean, and she tells us when we're there, because we kind of have this meet and greet, and I sit right in front of one of the cameras so she can see me, because she'll like text Wendy and go, "Y'all weren't at church?" Yeah, we were. You just didn't see it. So, but yeah, I know,
awesome.
I know, I get that. But like I said, I've got a lot of churches here that we work with that have gone back 50. I've got an Episcopal church that, I mean, gosh, I read their plan, and their plan was like down to, which rows this, will be blocked off. We go in this way, we come out this way, none this, none that, and all these things like that. I mean, they had it down to a science. You will register before you show up, because if you're not on the list and we don't have room for you, have a nice day. I mean, that's how they were. So, I mean, they made room for people who didn't know that you were supposed to go online, but they wanted you to fill out the form, the 4 questions, people say there's 3 questions, have you been, out of the country, have you been sick, or, well, there's a 4th question that people don't ask, because this happened. I was listening to a podcast, a webinar, where they said that they had the 3 questions. Have you been out of country? Have you been sick? Have you been around anybody that has the COVID-19? And this guy goes into a big meeting, and he's standing around telling everybody, well, I do have COVID-19. And they went up to him and said, "What?" And he goes, "Well, you didn't ask that question. That wasn't on the question."
Goodness.
So I tell people 4 questions, because you'll have somebody like that. We think that we won't, but it's already been proven that, it does happen. He was asymptomatic. He wasn't worried about it. But you didn't ask me if I had it. Okay, pal.
Yeah.
Out.
You've always got that one guy.
You got that one guy,
Where's the fine print? I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason. There's a reason that there's a fog line and then a guardrail, and there's a rumble strip in between the fog line and the guardrail. It's that guy.
Yeah. Well, it's like the warning signs that we teach about. I love the one that says, "Don't use the hairdryer in the shower." I still have not figured out that guy. That guy that said, "Honey, I'm running a little late. Give me the hairdryer so I can dry my hair while I'm in the shower."
But interestingly enough, he was in for a shock. So,
I've talked to. It's interesting. It's interesting. You say that. You said that, Jim. I've talked to a church that actually they were they were using a thermometer, right? And so whenever somebody came in, they were doing temperature scans and that sort of thing. And what's interesting is if you're a church that you, and I'm just going to throw this out there real quick, if you're a church that you use those type of electronics devices, have a threshold. Make sure that you know what's required between point A and point B. And I'll tell you why, because electronic medical devices do not always function. If the battery's dying, if somebody sat on it, if somebody stepped on it. And here's another anomaly. So my daughter and I volunteer a lot for the Red Cross. And so we were called in to help some flood victims a couple of weeks ago. And we had a nurse call us and go through a bunch of questions. And they were like, okay, you can serve because, you can volunteer because you haven't been sick, etc. So we get to the Red Cross building and we walk in and they're taking temperatures. So the security guard takes our temperature and mine was like 98.2. So he's like, okay, you're fine. Here's a special sticker that you were checked. You can come in and out of the building, all day, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So then they checked my daughter. Well, my daughter came in at 99.5. Oh my goodness. You would have thought that a snake jumped out from the counter and bit this guy on the hand. He did not know how to handle it. And, and I say that in jest, but he didn't. He's like, oh, it's 99. I can't let you in the building. You've got to be sick. And I said, well, here's a couple of factors. And he kind of looked at me and I said, it's 94 in the shade outside right now. It's humid. My daughter just wore a sweatshirt from the vehicle to the building, which we had to walk about a block to the building where the parking is. And I said, it's warm outside. And he said, well, he said, why don't you just take a quick break, just sit over there in the chair and we'll wait a few minutes and then we'll recheck it. So I said, okay, that's fine. So we sat there. And at that point in time, I'll tell you, I was starting to get a little frustrated. I mean, it's you guys all have kids, but maybe it was a little of the dad syndrome, but I'm standing there and I'm like, we volunteered on a Sunday, our day off, to come in to try and help. And you're messing around over a 4 degree difference on, or half degrees, right, on this temperature. So he checked it again and it came in at like 99.2. So it was going down. And I leaned over to him and I said, look, we already went through all the health screening. She hasn't been sick. She hasn't been in contact with anyone who has. And I said, they already approved us to do this project. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, yeah, okay, you can go. What in the world?
That's what happens when you give somebody a little bit of power. I mean,
right.
But it's like you said, set the guidelines. What is a fever, guys? What is truly a fever? Right. Anything over 100, let's stop then. But, until we get to that point, temperatures go back and forth. I said, every time I walk into my dentist, they do a temperature reading on you. And the other day she came back and said, you're at 96. Are you okay? I was like, the place is air conditioned, I don't know. What do you mean? Am I okay? 96, check your reader. She didn't know how to do it. She sat there for a while playing with it. She didn't know how to do it. That's another problem you got. It's like you said, sure. Oh, well, let me hit it. Well, wait a minute. Everybody's 102. What's wrong here?
Well, and that's where the medical side comes in. I mean, if you're going to do that, if you're going to scan for temperatures, then have a nurse stand there that can put, and I always say, when you have a medical emergency, you assess it, you put together the puzzle pieces and make a decision on what's going on. But with that, it's like, if you're not familiar, then have somebody do it that is, but also realize that it's a whole package. If someone comes in and they're pale and sweat's pouring off of them, or maybe they're flushed, but at the same time, it's like if they come in and they had to park, a half a mile away from the church building, like because their parking lot's big like ours is, and they hiked across, the asphalt, they're going to be a little bit warm. And some people just have here's a thought. Some people just have unusual temperatures,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
My
not
wife
everybody is
almost a degree naturally. I mean, I'm warmer than my wife is, and she's almost always cooler. And I've literally had people say, "Well, you're actually running a low grade fever," and I'm like, "No, that's my normal body temperature." And I mean, I just tell my wife that I'm naturally hot, and she goes, and goes on with life. So poor Mike. Mike's like, "Oh my gosh."
I was waiting for the comment. If you didn't say something, I was going to say, well, I think you're cooler than your wife too, but
But it is people
oh my
vary.
goodness.
And there was a poor little girl at our church 2 Sundays ago when we reopened up. So this was our 3rd week back, and they've stair stepped up. But she was so short. I'm 6'4", and she's like, so I take a knee so that she can scan my head, and she's got the mask on and everything. And I just love the masks that don't fit right, so you can it's doing nothing. But anyway, as I'm standing there, I've taken a knee so she's like, "Okay, you're good." Somebody walks by and goes, "That looks really bad, right? It looks like you're proposing." And I was like, "Well, she couldn't reach the top. She couldn't reach my forehead." But yeah, it's the whole thing with the temperature readings cracks me up.
You gotta love the mask. I'm just gonna throw this out here too. You gotta love the masks that only cover the mouth.
Right.
That drives me.
I've seen crocheted masks, and I'm like,
that have holes in them that a 9mm could go through. Yes.
Right. You can stick a soda straw through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's so they can drink through it. I mean, that's the whole thing behind it.
I'm like, please Google placebo.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had an outside service, and we did the drive-in service. It was fantastic. I mean, it was just wonderful. We had a great time. But when we passed out communion, which we passed out in like an individual, we had it in a bucket, and you handed it over. Of course, really, then everybody's taking one. Take the gloves, put them on, and then they handed them out. Yeah. So, but they had the mask on then and stuff like that. We didn't require mask. And I had one around my neck in case anybody complained. It's kind of one of those you pulled up, but after a period of time, it got hot and I took it off. And, it's just, I kind of heard Mike say this earlier, whether you believe it or not. I like the way you said that. It'll be interesting to see if there is an uptick with everything that's been going on in these cities. That's my question.
I agree.
Because I do know that in Florida, it's starting to go down. So we're doing okay, but we don't allow the protests like you do up north. I just want to let you know.
Let's be fair, because most Floridians are old enough that they have to have special looter hours. You have to have the early bird, the early jailbird looter hours.
Have you ever been hit by a cane? It hurts. Walkers, they can use them. That's a crowd control piece of apparatus right there. I can move through a crowd with a walker. I can tell you that right now. So don't talk about them down here. They'll run over you with a scooter. I'm telling you.
Well, I've been hit by a scooter at the Magic Kingdom, and I'll tell you that wasn't real magical.
No, it is not. It's not. But it's like I said. We were so. I mean, James, I talked to you, and you were talking about you were listening to your pastor, and he said something about social distancing. He said he's going to turn it over to the safety team guys to monitor this, and I'm like, really? And we were laughing about it. But like I said, we have churches here in Tampa. We had one that they went in and arrested the pastor for not doing the CDC regulations of social distancing. But yet we have all these, and like I said, I don't want to talk bad about protests, but we have all these protests and there's no social distancing at all. And I'm listening to the doctors and they're going, we don't care about the mask. It's the social distancing that we want people to do. So I'm curious to see what happens.
I know exactly what you're saying. And we had that conversation Friday when we were out, trying to help and minister in the community. And that was, and I'm the same way. I would love to see how the stats look after a month or two of, okay, we went through this where it was obvious that groups of people were together, not following these rules. And so what's going to happen? I mean, we'll see.
It's a mystery to us, but
yeah, we'll go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to run through, real quick. We're going to do 2 videos from our sponsors for the month and give you the opportunity to watch that. And then we'll be back here in just a few minutes. So hang tight with us, guys.
My name is Jim Howard. I'm the Executive Director of Trinity Security Allies. I'm also the lead security person for Generations Christian Church here in Trinity, Florida. We run about a 35-man operation that we provide safety for the church through all the services and the different events that they have. This has been a really big thing for us to partner up with LaserShot and work with them in setting up church safety security scenarios. When we first got LaserShot back a year ago, the thing we liked about it the most was that it was teaching people who have concealed weapons permit and also law enforcement officers, putting them in scenarios that they would never be able to do at a shooting range, but putting them in a live scenario where they would have to make a split decision of whether to shoot or don't shoot. The scenarios that we shot today are based on real life situations. Domestic violence, where the husband comes in and attacks his ex-wife in the church. People trying to steal their children when they don't have custody of those children. These are the type of things that actual safety teams across the United States are going to run into. And of course, we do have the active shooters. And these are things that we have to pay attention to. There have been more and more active shooter situations going on in the United States right now. And so we have to be prepared. Whether it be overseas or in the United States, we have to be ready for what may face us in today's house of worships. My name is Jim Howard. I'm an Executive Director of Trinity Security Allies, and I train with LaserShot.
Church ministry is more often than not a hard, thankless journey. Church safety and security even more so. Down a narrow path, a steep and rocky path. a path with ups and downs and little rest along the way, a road that often is barely visible and indistinguishable on the journey of life, but one that makes the journey easier for others, forging the way and going into the unknown. Join us for an adventure down the road less traveled.
All right. So if you are just now joining us, we're the Church Safety Guys, and we have guests with us, Jim Howard from Trinity Security Allies with us today. So we just took a quick minute and went through and kind of like to do a little bit more information on our sponsors. So check out their websites. And then also, we just actually yesterday just released our newest book, The Road Less Traveled, which if you haven't had an opportunity to check that out, let me see if I can find the picture here real quick. You should. Of course, it's an excellent product because we provided it. I'm just saying.
We can't recommend the author though, so.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So anyhow, but check it out. It is available on Amazon, and it will be available via Kindle in about 2 weeks. We had a few folks that kind of asked us why did you guys do another devotional? Well, the devotional, I just want to explain that real quick, and then we'll jump back in the topic. The first devotional that we did was War Ready, and it really was the idea and designed for the opportunity for individuals to have a little exercise, jump into an exercise regimen. And Paul and I kind of had that idea, and we put it together. The Road Less Traveled is it is a devotional. It's a 31-day devotional as well, but it does not have the exercise component to it. It has different stories. So if you're a church safety member and you're like, hey, I can't handle exercising, I hate exercising, curse you, Paul, for encouraging me to exercise, this is the book for you. And the cool thing about it is that not only does it have the 31-day devotional component, but it also has another journaling component to go with each day. There's a section of where you can jot down prayer requests, and we kind of took a lot of your feedback from the first book and put that into the second one. The other thing that we also added to that is a group study guide component. So you can do it by yourself, you can do it as a team, as your safety team, and it gives you questions and different topics to cover. And then for those of you that are leaders, church safety team leaders out there, in our leaders page, we're actually working on a project right now to go hand in hand with that. And that's actually going to be a video series that goes with each week. But we have kind of broken it down, and we've broken it into basically 6 topics, and you cover one topic each week. So topics like grace, patience, prayer, training, trust, and leadership are the topics that we cover and that we talk about in there, and basically how to disciple your team, and then also how to grow yourself. So it's a good resource. It's available on Amazon, and it's good stuff. So check it out if you have time. And then Rich asked, how can we find the leaders page? We'll post the link down there, but it's Church Safety Guys, and then it just says leaders. And what we'll be doing, I'm actually trying to record the video for that. We'll do 5 videos, so 1 for each week. So if you are doing a group session, then you can actually read through the book during the week, meet together, talk, go through the group format in the book, and then also play the video, and you kind of have an opportunity to get some of the backstory to what was written through that week, and then also practical application. So it's hopefully it'll be helpful and fill in some of the need in our industry for ministry tools and that sort of thing. So So back tonight, talking with Jim Howard about opening and just a few nuances, I guess, with that. Paul, you had a couple of questions you wanted to jump into with our next topic here for the remainder.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about that devotional because I was more involved in the making of the first one and I haven't got to see this one, so I'm pretty stoked. Jim, I really want to kind of throw this your direction. I did a video probably a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was basically along the idea of we're going to have three sets of people that are going to be coming into church that weren't there before. So you've got your folks that were already in church, your members and guests and whatever, but then. And I kind of termed it like you're going to have your seekers. I have a friend that she calls anybody that's interested in God, she calls them a seeker, and I kind of like that. And then you're going to have the mocker. We're told in the Old Testament, to beware the mocker, not to sit in the seat of the mocker. And then I think you're going to have the predator. And I'll kind of flesh those out and then just kind of let you run with it. I think that you're going to have a lot of people who have encountered, maybe come face to face with the idea of their own mortality, maybe for the first time in their lives. And they are, as Mike said, paralyzed with fear. And Bible sales have skyrocketed. I've seen places that you couldn't find a Bible on the shelf. And a lot of churches that are putting up online church services. I mean, our church, they have people out of Germany watching. And so there is an enormous amount of interest in church. Now, of course, that can be positive and negative because people can be looking that maybe are very anti anything to do with God. And that can fall into the predator category. And then you've got the mocker, and that's the person who they want to show up and walk up to the front and scream and yell and be stupid, or they want to come in there and go, you guys are stupid for reopening your church because, and they want to cause a scene. They're there to cause a disturbance. And that's nothing new, but I think we're probably going to see more of it. I mean, heck, we saw people throwing nails in church parking lots. And then thirdly, I think that there's going to be people, and I pray this doesn't happen, but this is where I'd love to see you talk about this as well, Jim, where people may be coming into church thinking, I can show up and mingle with the seekers. I'll be invisible in the crowd and I can wear a mask and I can do something stupid and maybe get away with it, i.e., hurt a child, shoot the place up, whatever. So based on those three basic ideas, what are your thoughts?
How much time do I have?
60 seconds starting now.
Go.
My commercial.
Just
here.
with you.
A 30-second commercial. DHS came out in let's see, March, I think it was. I had my notes here. They came out in April 2020, and they talked about that churches needed to dust off their security manuals because when we reopen, we're concerned about what we're going to see. Now, they said there's no actual threats, but there's a lot of people out here spreading hate, and this could be a way of showing their hate. Well, and they went on to say additional stressors caused by the pandemic. Well, I started adding my own when everything started going on, because not only do we have the pandemic, we have police brutality, we have riots, we have church decisions on opening up, government cover up, or any other issue that somebody may be going on. You had three, and I had three of my own. Also, nice. I had four, really. I had four, those that are coming back to church because they've been waiting to get back to church. Okay. You're going to have those, and I've already seen them that say this is nothing but a hoax and kind of be a little bit, disruptive about it. Then you're going to have those that think it's the end of time and start preaching that. And what is that going to do? That's going to scare people, and especially people that may be coming in seeking Christ, seeking answers. I mean, really, seriously, they may have lost everything, all these different things like that. Yeah. And then of course, you're going to have those, like you said, that are scared. Mockers, I think, fit into the hoax and the end of time because, and see, I think you have to add one more now. And that one more is, I was at a protest in Tampa, here for us, and I couldn't get my voice heard there. So let me stand up in the middle of the church and hold a Black Lives Matters or, no peace, no justice, something like that to get my point across. Mm-hmm. So I really think that our safety teams, I'm going to try to have my guys come in, and we're going to do 2 days so that they can come to either one of them. And we're going to do a full-blown course on threat profiling
Nice.
Start to look at physical features of people that will tell you that they are a possible concern. I don't like to use the word threat because, a person that just may be disruptive is not really a threat at that moment in time. It is disruptive, but something that we should see. And I have made this statement over and over and over again. Paul, if you were to walk in, you said you were 6 foot something.
Yep.
If you were to walk in with a mask on, if I knew you, I probably would know you immediately, even with the mask on.
Yep.
But if I have somebody that comes in that I do not recognize, our safety team members need to get past this point of we don't talk to anybody. We're safety. We stand over here and wait till the fire happens and then we come running in. Yeah. No, you need to be in the middle of the crowd. A watchman was a spy. He went in and got information. That's one of the definitions of it. It's a person who watches over, a person who spies on things. It is somebody that knows everything that's going on inside their church. And if I come to your church and I go, who's that over there? And who's that over there? And who's that over there? And you can't tell me 80% of them, I think we got a problem here.
Nice.
The thing of it is that mask is only what? Not even a quarter of the body. There is so much other body language that's going to be going on, but hands, sure, eyes. Just looking around, fidgety. You can't stand still. Look at the neck. You know what I've noticed on this? When you put the mask on, guess what it does? If it emphasizes your arteries here. So if you're pumped, you're going like crazy. Yeah, you're moving it. You're moving fast, So like I said, bring your safety team guys in and start training them now on what to look for. I've said this. I did training on this last week. The webinar that we did was on I'd done it before, but the West Freeway shooting. That, my professional opinion, that was an armed robbery gone bad. That's my professional opinion, and I can justify all the way through there. They should have never let him in the church. They should have stopped him at the door, and they should have started talking to him right then and there. And they could have easily looked at him and said, sorry, we have a rule, no fake wigs and no fake beards. And if he would have said, well, I've got cancer and I just had, chemo and I got all these sores and I'm not trying to scare anybody. Fantastic. Let Brother James come over and sit with you, and let's pray for you. Let's get you in. Let's sit down and talk about, what you're going through. Is there anything we can do to help you? But instead, they let that wolf inside the sheep, and we see what happened. Should have never let him inside. That's my number one. Number two, if you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable, 911 needs to be on their way. That's just all there is to it. Do not wait until it falls apart on you. We have to be proactive in this. We train active shooter training. It is reactive. It has already started. We need to be ahead of it. That's why we tell people to read Left of Bang. You need to be left of what's about to happen. So this is what I recommend to everybody. We need to be out here looking for these people. You're absolutely right. Paul, you, like I said, you got it. I think you're going to have these people come in. I think we're going to be tested. I think this is going to be, I tell you, I just see it happening. I got a little bit fired up a couple of weeks ago about it because I think we're just doing it haphazardly. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to start opening the churches again. No, they're waiting for the massive crowd to come in. They're not going to hit you now. They may be looking at you, but wait till the one walks in and goes, you're not social distancing. You're not social. I'm going to go call the police right now. Yep. Okay. What are we going to do about that?
We talked to Stephen Williford, and we did an interview with Stephen Williford last week, and we'll be playing the interview and conversation we had with him in July. But one of the things that he touched on a couple of times when I was talking to him was that the nature of the safety team as we know, or as we used to know it, I'll say that, with the problem of complacency. We go from and this is something that we have to deal with across the board, because the activity we go through is a roller coaster, right? It's a roller coaster of adrenaline, because some Sundays there's absolutely nothing, and then the next Sunday, whether it's a medical emergency or something else, we have like a ton of things going on. So it's very easy for someone to not be focused, for somebody to be looking at their phone, not watching people that come in. So we were dealing with those things before. And I think, honestly, Jim, I think you're 100% correct. If we were having challenges dealing with teams and doing that before, it's going to be tenfold now, because now we also have to deal with the masks, with other things. And, I think, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think that it's going to be a long time before a church steps in and says, you don't need a mask, please don't wear a mask. And maybe one of those days we'll be talking about it on the show. But I know right now, if somebody came up to me that I didn't know, right, and they had a mask on, I would not ask them to take it off. I wouldn't say, well, take your mask off, we don't allow masks in here, because I know that impacts perception and how people are about that sort of thing. So, I mean, we need to be careful with it, but I 100% agree with you. I just think that, we keep talking about getting back to normal, or getting back to a new normal, which is starting to turn into a catchphrase that I really hate. It really, it really wears on me. But regardless, it really just, in trying to be even keel about the whole thing, it opens us up for more potential down the road. And I think that we're going to see that, because I think you still have the pockets of the US where people are mad at churches, because churches were allowed to open up and congregate before, even though people are going into Walmart and Home Depot and all those places, right? But churches were allowed to congregate before movie theaters and amusement parks and everything else. So you're still going to have folks that associate that. I know they are in California. Because the media is destroying churches right now out there, because you know what whether it's justified or not, I'm just my thoughts on it. But Paul, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think this is something that if we're church security, we need to be very mindful of this, because you're going to have people that are going to come in that are not going to understand your church culture. You're going to have a lot of people. I remember we had a service where a lady was actually twerking. She was standing there twerking to the worship. And I'm very security minded, and I turned and I did a double take, and I kind of glanced at my wife, and I thought, she's a seeker. She's here, and where she comes from, you move your body like that to music that you like. And we're not going to say anything to her. We're going to pray for her and hope that the Holy Spirit moves on her and she finds the Lord. But there's going to be people that come in that don't understand the normal behavior for our church culture. And are they seekers? Are they mockers? We need to be looking for people with folded cardboard signs. There's going to be people that might want to throw liquid up on the stage on the pastor. And social media is an incredible double-edged sword. And so if our pastor decided to speak on godly submissions of wives to husbands, or on abortion, or anything that somebody might think is a hot topic, there are very well documented attacks against pastors where they would wait for the pastor to come out into the parking lot. And I'm a three levels of security guy. I know you guys all are. And we need to be protecting our pastors, because now people know what they look like. They know what they look like, and they can go find them on social media, and they can learn about their lives. So if somebody wants to accost the pastor or attack the pastor, they've seen the pastor or multiple pastors you have for the last several weeks on social media. And so it opens up a new area for the predator. And then also they've been listening to us and maybe seeing the layout of our sanctuary. And depending on how your cameras are set up, I've seen services where you can see pretty much the whole place. And so, yeah, I totally agree. We need to be very mindful. We want to welcome the seeker. Maybe we want to love on the mocker as we gently escort them out or invite them to sit down and enjoy the service. And then, God willing, we detect the predator and get law enforcement on the way before they go off. Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what I started in the beginning. The word balance, I think, is across the board. But in this, I also see that the tendency is to say, oh, you have safety in your name, so you get all of the responsibility associated with managing all things COVID and what we're going to do with it. And I'm like, you know what? It's one thing to manage it. It's another thing to manage the execution. I think we have volunteers that certainly, whether it's medical team or whether it's ushers, they can certainly participate in those safety measures for obviously genuine safety, but obviously also somewhat perception management and that balance that we're trying to strike. James, you mentioned the part about the masks. I think there's some that are certainly ready to take them off and would, including, I think, leadership. But I think that it's their kind of I kind of come back to the idea of, do I like wearing one? Absolutely not. I hate it. It's absolutely, but at the same point, I sit there and say, do this for the least of these. And I kind of look at it and say, there's people that are coming in. I'd rather have them in the church building. Yes, the church is not a building, but I'd rather have them come in and feel partially safe because of that mask than stay home and just watch online. So I think there's so much opportunity for us to greet those seekers. Jim talked about that, to be that greeter, to be that person that's kind of going out there. But I think also we have to remind ourselves to go back and say, are we announcing certain topics in new ways because we've gone so big on social media? Are we broadcasting, if you will? We've used that in other ways, but are we broadcasting a sensitive subject that's going to be the topic? Are we inviting controversy by broadcasting that too early? And so we want to be sure that we're watching for that as well.
But I think we're broadcasting controversy every day.
True.
I mean, I mean, if you say that if you don't believe, you're not going to, that Christ is the only true God, that's the only way that you're going to get to heaven. That's controversy right there. So I mean,
modern day, current.
But even if you said, all lives matter, well, what now? We're going to have Black Lives Matter come in and protest? Really? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, Mike, on what you're saying. It's just nothing new. I just think that right now we're going to have additional stressors that we're going to see that we need to be prepared for. And wearing the mask has got a lot of people. See, this is where your safety team starts to fall apart. Oh my gosh, people are going to be wearing masks. Okay, really? Countries wear masks. There's countries that wear masks all the time. They get up in the morning, put it on before they walk out the door. I tell people, I try to stress this. You recognize the people that you know and the people that you don't, go talk to them. I had a guy, I run early in the morning and I run on a trail that's in the woods and it's dark until it gets light. But there's a guy, I might've told you the story before, but there's this guy that walks all the time and he just has his unique stride and I can see him from a distance. And when I pass him, I, say good morning to him. I'm standing at the front door and I'm watching this guy come in because I've never seen this guy because it's always dark. He's got a baseball cap. Wintertime, he's got a little hoodie on. Hey, if it gets 50 down here, it's winter. So, I never had seen his face, but I saw this stride coming toward the church and I knew immediately who he was. And I walked out and I said, you walk the trail all the time, don't you? Yes, I do. And the next thing you know, we start talking. If your safety team, like I said, doesn't know 80% of the people that are coming into your churches, that they can just give you a little bit of information on something, you gotta work with this guy. You got to say, all right, I want you to go over and talk to this guy and find out where he's from. We get a lot of visitors from out of state. Like you said, we got a whole bunch of people down here from, y'all's area. So, but we got it. One other thing that you said there. Okay. I'm letting my medical team handle the medical side of it. I have a medical team. I trust them. I'm letting them handle it. If they see something that they think is something we should address, we'll address it. They are in charge. As soon as they see a medical emergency, they're in charge. I tell my team that. Number two, we always include volunteers and staff in our training. So many times I go into a church to do church safety training, and everybody in there is a safety team member, and there's not one greeter or usher there. And that just literally like what? They're your first line of defense, folks. They see it before sometimes you do. But it'll amaze them. Listen, we work with them, and they'll come to us and say, "Hey, did y'all happen to see the guy?" And we'll go, "In the red Corvette jacket." And they went, yeah, we got him. We're watching him. But they appreciate it. At least I know that they're looking, I know they're watching also. You need to train them too. They should be always invited in your training. Frustrates me to no end when they say, "Oh, it's only safety team only." No, it's not. We don't want them to know what we're doing. What are you, Secret Service? What? You're in a church. Let's remember this, guys. Come on. So,
well, we're all safer, Jim, to your point. I was talking to Michael Holland the other day about the concept of the Wyatt Earp Club. People that, well, we've got a gun, he's got a gun, I've got a gun, he's got a gun, there's a nurse over there, we're good. No. De-escalation, observation. Let's learn all these things, because maybe that usher de-escalates somebody, and another usher comes over and says, "Hey, I think a couple of you guys need to be up here. I think this guy needs prayer," and bam, problem solved.
We get our ministers work with us, because you have your pastor up, but you have multiple ministers in there. If we see somebody distraught, we get a minister over immediately.
Boom.
Because if you walk over, and this is a person that is having a really bad day, that maybe has been charged with things or something like that, you walk over with a radio earpiece in your head, he may look at you and go, "Oh, you're police. Your church sent you over here because I'm upset," and you're going to lose him. Or the situation is, you go over to this guy and he starts to just bleed out on you, tell you everything that's happened in his life. He's telling you everything. And all of a sudden you get a radio call, "Hey, I need you because I've got a lost child." And you look at the guy and say, "Hey, I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere." Guess what? You just lost him.
Copy
you lost him. Because when he starts, that's a Holy Spirit that's opened that floodgate. Let it flow. And if you get called away, that's the devil saying, "I'm not going to let you catch this. I'm not going to let you help this guy."
So guys, I want you to unpack that for a second. That's so valuable. Let's not miss what he just said, because you've got a ministry team member that's in the mix.
Yes.
You've got a couple safety team members. I've literally been pulled away. I'm getting goosebumps. I've been pulled away from something that I needed to stay at and not able to function in it. But if you have a deacon, an elder, a pastor that's right there with it, you can always take a step back and come back in. So let's not miss that. That's good stuff.
We stand by. We're in the area. If the pastor turns around and looks at us and kind of gives us the wave, that means he's got it, and we walk away from it. But we have hurting people that come in, and if you put the safety team on them, oh wow, it's just not. It's, you hurt a seeker. You really do.
Amen. Especially if your safety team is full of hammers.
Yeah, I got a few of those.
I think we all have a few of those. I had a gentleman today ask me, he said almost in the same sentence, I just went out and got my CHL and I was wondering if I can join the safety team. And I'm like, exactly, Mike. I'm like, okay. And I understood that wasn't what he meant. He was looking, I've known him for a while, and I know he's been looking for a ministry, and we've been talking about it, but it's I don't know, it's one of those pet peeves. But
well, real quick, Paul said that the seekers, the mockers, and the predators, I've got like 3 of my safety team members that are those already. So, I've got to worry about it.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. Well, for sake of time, we need to wrap up. This has been great. As always, Jim, I appreciate you staying up late and hanging with us.
Us old folks, with the canes and stuff, we like our sleep.
We have looked, and that's why, for those of you that are watching, that's why we do so many watch parties with the video, because honestly, we've looked at so many different times of trying to move the show to, and with church and different things going on Sunday, it's just really challenging. And Sunday evening, I think, is still the best time that we seem to have the most viewers.
Brothers, anytime. I'll be more than happy to jump on. I really will. I'll take a nap tomorrow. That's okay.
Appreciate that. Hey, it was great talking to you, Paul. Great. Yeah, you too, Paul. Great talking to you, Jeff. We'll talk to you later.
But not Mike. It was not good talking to Mike.
Nope, not at all. I'm still scratching my head over your car trip story, but
You know what? I'm going to
of
close that. I'm going to close that really quick because I'm going to give that a shout out to that deputy, that off-duty deputy that came back and saved the day. Okay, because guess what? God put that deputy there. This is not a statement about cops or not. God put that deputy there because guess what the conversation was on the way to McDonald's. Okay, when she's guess who's on her church safety team? Her. So I was able to talk about this broadcast, our mission, the vision of what we have for church safety guys, all at the same time. God put that woman right there to help us get out from that situation. So it's just an amazing. I mean, am I upset that my car's stuck way up there and I probably got a huge bill that I can't afford? Absolutely. But honestly, that opportunity to speak there, but also to speak into other people's lives with what I said earlier, I think today God was moving even in that moment, as much crisis as it was. Praise God.
Well, and before James closes, I got to jump on that just for 2 seconds, because who knows, they may start watching the broadcast and something that Jim or Simon or Chris or us, something that we say, whatever, sparks something that saves the day, and somebody's coming in with a gallon of gasoline and a road flare and they shut them down. And who knows if that repair bill was for such a time as this to save the lives at that church. That's just how God works. It's like he knows what's going to happen before it happens. It's weird.
For sure. Real quick, I'm just going to add, we just got a question. I'm not sure. I can't see who asked it, but the person had the question, what do you do if you can't get your usher team on board with training, like
Tasers.
with the safety ministry? What's that?
Tasers.
Oh, yeah. Tasers. You know, that's obviously that's kind of a challenge for us at our church. It's always a challenge because our ushers are a certain age where they're not big on cell phones, communication, or different things like that. But the ones that are in charge, typically we'll try and involve them with they're all part of our first impressions team, and so is safety. So when we do first impressions meetings, I'm usually given a piece of time to talk about a particular topic. And a lot of times what I like to hammer into folks is awareness and just watching and not necessarily profiling, or at least a version of it. And a version of, we had John Riley on a couple of weeks ago talking about de-escalation, kind of a version of de-escalation too, to be able to say, okay, when we interact with folks, this is what you should look for. So there's a lot of, unfortunately, I don't have, a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time tonight to talk about that. We can definitely revisit that at another time. But, I've done, and maybe you can understand or relate to this, but I've asked numerous times to do meetings. I've asked numerous times with the ushers to have them come in, and I always run into a roadblock. And so what I do is I try and intentionally talk to each individual. If something comes up, I'll approach them, but I'll also go out to them and talk about awareness on the side, or I'll invite them continually to safety training that we do. So, you do the best that you can with the resources you have, and you're not going to be able to always bring everybody in, but prayerfully that individual is never in a situation that compromises safety or something like that. And, definitely pray that God opens an opportunity, because I've been frustrated before and done that. I've prayed and said, God, give me the opportunity to reach these folks. And then, a week later, my pastor calls me and says, hey, I want to do this training class. Can you talk about this or that? And I think, honestly, a lot of churches are 20 yards ahead of where they used to be with that topic. I mean, I can remember talking about awareness and having Sunday school teachers and church workers that were just like, so you mean I need to pay attention to who comes into the church building? So it's rough, but just like anything else, you take as much, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So we talked a couple of weeks ago, we talked about with Simon from Worship Security Association about how to convince people that a safety team is a good idea. And so one of Simon's comments was, you start little, you start with the people you can, you talk to the people you can as much as you can. And you are a herald for the safety team and awareness and all of that stuff. So if a Sunday goes by and I'm not talking to someone about what to look for and awareness and traits and everything else, then, that's unusual, because I'm always talking to somebody about that. And enlisting people's help. So that being said, I'll turn it over to Paul and ask Paul to go ahead and close us in prayer, and then we will bid you good night. So,
all right. So very, very quickly, that was a great question. I think we may actually do a show really about that, because I think that fleshes out its own topic. So we're going to kick that around. So to whoever asked that, great question. And asking questions like that actually gives us great fodder for shows. So if you guys would bow with me real quick. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, it is a humbling thing to come together, exchange ideas, to talk about things, to have subject matter experts, Lord God, that have decades of experience come in and teach us nuances. There's so many little things that we can learn. I call them these little 2-degree shifts, Lord God, that can help us in church safety. And we've been doing this for a long time, and we're always learning something new. That's the thing I love about it. So, Lord God, I thank you for the opportunity to help people to make their churches a safer place. Help us to be mindful that it's a ministry first. We're not God's SWAT team. We're not your SWAT team. And Lord God, I just ask that you keep our churches safe. Help us to be very wise as we go into this time and open our churches, and be ready for the seeker, be ready for the mocker, be ready for the predator. Lord God, we just thank you again in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So thanks for hanging with us. Definitely check out the website, because we've got great training resources listed there at churchsafetyguys.com, and take some time. If you're looking for more information, check out fullarmorchurch.com and also Trinity Security Allies. They have a lot of free resources, and Jim's been doing a lot of great webinars lately with just great content. So until next week, I think we're going to have another special guest on. I believe it's Tina Rowe, and Ms. Rowe, if everything goes well, actually used to be she's a retired U.S. Marshal, and she's big in church safety, has been for years, going around the country and talking to churches about the importance of that. And great gal, great attitude, lots of spunk. So it'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun talking to her. So anyhow, until next week, take care, guys.